morning, good morning. It's like a church choir at this point. All right. Ready? All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to my first press conference with you all, and thank you for everyone tuning in that's here to understand kind of where we've been for the past month and kind of what our new policy is going forward and what I believe is going to be the future of our office. It's been an eventful few months, first month here as State Attorney. I'm eager to share with you some of the updates and accomplishments that we have accomplished while in my first month, and some of them have been very impactful, including the reason why you all are here today. One of the most pressing issues, if you've heard me speak on this, has been staffing. We have been able to secure about 75 years of experience in new returning prosecutors to our office. Again, those are returning prosecutors, people that have worked for this office before and have decided to make that decision to come back and serve the community that they love so much. And I'm also excited for next Wednesday because that's when bar results come out. So our new class of prosecutors will be ready to start starting on Wednesday. Everybody will be clicking the Florida Bar Examiner website and refreshing to make sure to see if they got the pass, and they'll be part of our new community here and family as prosecutors in the Ninth Judicial Circuit. Public safety is critical to our well-being as a community, and hiring prosecutors that have experience and ones that are motivated to seek justice is part of the goal and part of my administration's goal towards that end. And part of that, we've reinstituted some minimum mandatories for dangerous offenders and making sure that they're going to be held accountable in front of our public, in front of our juries, and in front of our courts. A strong relationship with local communities are a bedrock to an effective justice system. This week, I've met with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement regarding the arrest of one of the neo-Nazi protesters. There are 3 outstanding warrants, and we are looking forward to seeking justice against people that decide that hate is the most appropriate way to communicate with the public. Love will always overcome hate, and just as light will always overcome the dark. I'm also willing to commend the Orlando Police Department. I had a conversation with Chief Smith this morning, and we've been in constant contact with them over the Poppy shooting and the unfortunate death of Ajalea, who's the 6-year-old girl that was killed during that unfortunate incident. And they're doing a great job in making the arrest and making sure that people are going to be held accountable for that well, you heard me describe it as senseless tragedy. Over the past month, I have engaged regularly with law enforcement. Many of them are here, including Florida Department of Law Enforcement, Sheriff Mina, Sheriff Lopez, and many of the other chiefs that serve our jurisdiction and our circuit. And we are beginning to foster a more open and communicative relationship that is going to benefit the policing in our area as well as the justice system that we are trying to create. In addition, I've had the opportunity to sit in on some listening sessions and meet with community leaders and participate in community engagement sessions to address concerns and gather information so that we can turn that into a more effective justice system and a more effective work product for our office. In the near future, I'll be announcing some quality partnerships with local nonprofits and educational opportunities to help keep our kids off the streets and set them up for success in life. We are actively working to streamline our case management process, reducing case backlog and ensuring timely resolutions for defendants and for the public. This includes addressing a significant backlog in the conviction integrity unit and addressing concerns from defense counsels about delays in case resolution. In the coming weeks, I'll be announcing the changes to our diversion program that will get us out of the backlog that extends back to November of 2020. As we hire prosecutors in upcoming weeks, I will continue to assure that we communicate with you all about this ongoing backlog and making sure that we are being held accountable and moving those cases forward. Fairness is a fundamental pillar of our justice system. A thorough review of the outstanding cases revealed that there were some inconsistencies on how our death penalty was being imposed. We will ensure that if we are going to seek death, that it's going to be something that's going to be fair, balanced, and that is going to be transparent in how we're going to do it. Transparency, again, is critical when it comes to the use of force policy that we are here to talk about today. We revised our policy to ensure that use of force incidents are handled in accordance with the law. A qualified use of force incident typically occurs when a situation with law enforcement uses force that could or may cause great bodily injury or death that requires an independent investigative authority to come out and investigate that incident. We've implemented a more transparent process by involving the grand jury in these cases. In the new policy, these cases will be thoroughly reviewed and presented to the grand jury to ensure community transparency and timely outcome for both victims, law enforcement, families, and the community. There's also community engagement. It's also the community engagement aspect to the policy. It's something that I call community policing, that's going to allow the grand jury to comment and to present to the public best practices and changes in training and procedures in those 8 cases that they hear, so that we can possibly save lives and make our community safer for both law enforcement and for our citizens that are in our circuit. The goal is to allow the grand jury members to hear directly from the affected parties and make recommendations related to those policies and procedures or training enhancements. Transparent and community engagement is the critical justice process, and gives our chance to communicate with law enforcement and open that conversation so that we are not standing on 2 sides of an issue and shouting at each other, but somewhere we are together in the middle trying to come up with a best practice and procedure that will keep our community safe and move our community forward. Additionally, the time for looking at criminal justice as a separate issue has to come to an end. We have the tools in our community to aid in rooting out crime. Criminal justice is a community issue. We are actively collaborating with community organizations, legal aid services, and law enforcement agencies to create more coordinated and effective criminal justice system. These partnerships are vital in addressing the root cause of crime and ensuring all public safety, overall public safety. The number of indicators that someone is going to be involved in the criminal justice system, that's the number 1 indicator that somebody's going to be involved in the system, is something as simple as literacy. The number of new prisons that are decided to be built are based on our 3rd grade reading scores, and that's how private prison companies and corporations decide how many prisons are going to need to be built in the future. Last year, if you look at the Department of Education numbers for Orange County, 54% of the 3rd graders are at reading level, while in Osseo County, the number is only 45. Almost 85% of the kids that are in my DJJ system cannot read or are not reading at grade level. This is something that we can change as a community, and I'm taking steps in my office as a part to do that with my work with the DJJ system and with even the adult system to make sure that we are trying to overcome this issue. This is an issue that stretches way past back even when my great-grandmother was alive, and still plagues our communities today. Because if you look at some of the most impoverished areas of our circuit, the passing number of those 3rd grade readers is almost half of the average. In closing, I want to reaffirm my goal in being transparent and accountable to our justice system and to our community so that we can build a trust and something that we can rely on. These accomplishments from our first month are just the beginning, and there is much more work to be done. I encourage you all to continue to engage with our office, ask questions, provide feedback, and we are here to serve you. That's our job, is service up to the people, and no other thing matters more to me than what is going to be the product that we put out and for you, because it's a representation of the service that we have in our hearts for our community. I thank you, and I look forward to the road ahead in building a safer community. And with that, I will open the floor for a few questions.
What is the first case that is going to go before the grand jury under your new policy?
It's going to be the Target case.
Why?
It's the only case we have open, and it's been open for over a year, which is an unacceptable timeline. When we go through the policy in a minute, you'll see there's the policy holds me accountable in bringing those cases to a quick and speedy resolution, obviously by being fair at the same time. But we have to get these families some closure. We have to get the officers either where they're going to be prosecuted, or they're going to be back on the streets. So we have to move faster in doing that, because the delays are kind of problematic for both our community and for public safety.
State Attorney Monique Burrell at the time said that her use of force policies when it came to officer-involved shootings ended up contributing to her ouster. Does the move to send this to the grand jury take the politics out of this, take the onus for you out of this in this case?
I want to be clear. The onus. Be clear.
Take the onus to make a decision that could be political.
I don't think and I think the decision should never be political. It should be based on the facts, the law, what can I prove. That's like any other case. It should be treated like every other case, other than it's something that's of great public importance because it involves law enforcement. And if you've heard me say it before, we trust these ladies and gentlemen behind me and the people that work for them for our public safety. And we trust them in doing that. And if that trust is broken, it's something that we should be, as a public, be able to hold accountable. So the idea is not just pushing it off to the grand jury, but just to foster a conversation. The conversation needs to occur. So it's something that we've been kind of one side because they think it's political, and the other side because they think it's some other reason. And that's not the goal of the policy, is to bring that to the middle, so we can actually have a conversation and actually talk about what our laws say, what are the policies and procedures that they have say, what is the best training that we can provide for our officers that are on the street is going to keep them safe and keep the public safe from incidents like this happening.
With grand jury deliberations and transparency, I know a lot of times those deliberations are secret.
Correct.
So how do you ensure transparency in that process? I mean, what does that process look like to provide that transparency, given that fact? All
right, so I'll just get to the slideshow at that point. But in a sense, there is two parts to this situation. There's going to be one where the grand jury is going to be hearing the case itself and deliberating on the facts of that case. And then there's a second portion where they're going to be able to make a presentment, which is where they're going to be able to make suggestions and be able to write those out. And those suggestions are going to be published and made available to the community, law enforcement, so that everybody is clear about what they're thinking and what they think is the best practice. So, I can't see behind me. So this is hard. All right, so in doing that, so this is our grand jury proceeding. When a qualified use of force incident occurs, that's when our independent investigative authority is activated. They respond to the scene. They begin investigating. They notify our office of what's occurring, so then we can also provide assistance if they need it. That's subpoenas and things that they may need to get whatever information they need from the agency and from other officers. They're going to brief our office. We're going to start a Brady review at that point for the incident that's occurred. So you've heard plenty of talk about this, the Brady list, and all those kind of things like that. Those are things that are still occurring. I'm going to assign either my chief assistant, which is Ryan Williams, or another assistant state attorney to handle the case and do the investigation. We're going to, like I said, assist in the investigation. Upon completion of the investigation by the independent investigative authority, we're going to submit the packet to our office. So we just got 2 in the other day. The chief assistant is going to review the packet and make further requests of the investigative agency so that to make sure that we have got all our bases covered. All right. At that point, we're going to retain an independent use of force expert. That's my office is going to go out and seek an expert that's outside of our circuit, that has no connection with any of the agencies and or with the people of our circuit, to make sure that there's an objective view of what we're going to present to the jury. Oh, sorry. Ooh. Yeah, clicked over too fast. And upon the receipt of the report from that expert, the assistant state attorney or the chief assistant is going to notify me, and I'm going to convene the grand jury within 60 days of that happening. So once again, that the timeliness is the aspect that's going to be different and changing to make sure that we're moving these cases. We're not hiding from cases that may not be popular, because that's not what the goal is. The goal is justice. All right, so the grand jury members are going to receive training and a presentation on relevant evidence. So that's training on the law, training on all the policies, procedures, the practices. The grand jury was going to provide in the deliberations that you all are familiar with an indictment or a true no bill. Either way, whether they provide an indictment or a true no bill, the grand juries are going to hear from the persons involved in the shooting, or if there was a fatality, the next of kin, so they can make an impact statement to the grand jury. The grand jury members may make this is their part. This is the secondary section where they may make a presentment, and that's the part that's going to be the public. That what they write is public, so we can publish that information, so they can present what they believe were the facts, the circumstances, and based on those facts and circumstances, what changes should be made in the policies and procedures for that law enforcement agencies, and then that information can be shared with everyone. So everyone is clear about what things need to be looked at, what things need to be changed, and then we can start having a conversation about that.
Is that presentment optional, or will they, I mean, how does that work to ensure that deliberation gets out there?
It's optional. It is optional, because there's nothing in the law that I can make them do it. But it's something that we're going to present to them to encourage them in the idea that it is important. It's something that's important for our community. It's something important for the people to hear and understand, and for law enforcement to know. Yes, ma'am.
Bottom line, State Attorney, folks are still trying to get to know you now that you've
Yes,
been
ma'am.
here for a little over a month. So what is it that you want folks to know about how you're going to handle cases like these and cases in general?
Cases in general are going to be prosecuted based on the facts, the evidence that we can present. So not just so there's evidence. So if you ever served on a jury panel, I don't know, they probably because you all worked in the media, probably we probably asked you all to leave, but the idea is that you have evidence, and not all evidence is admissible. So that's usually the problem, is that we can have a bunch of evidence. So we can collect a bunch of evidence from a certain crime or a certain situation, but because of the law, that evidence is not admissible. So when we are now we're getting a case, we need to go look and find evidence, admissible evidence, that we can move forward to and prosecuting the case. If their evidence is not there, case goes away. If there's evidence there that we need to look at, present, go back to the agencies to ask them, just like in this situation, to go do some more investigating, to follow up, then that's what we'll do. And we'll continue to work with them to make better cases going forward, because that's the goal. So that's what brings public safety, is that we get cases, we get the facts, the evidence, we will prosecute them based on those facts and evidence, or not prosecute them. And also, we're going to help them move forward in making better cases for the future.
Just yesterday, a man, 34-year-old Matthew Robinson, was arrested for spray painting hateful messages at
Yes.
2 LGBTQ centers.
Yes.
He's currently only facing 3 criminal mischief charges. Will your office look at upgrading those charges possibly?
We are going to look at that. I did see that we finally got a suspect in that situation for the LGBTQIA plus community as well. Just like the neo-Nazis, they're on the same idea that we as a community and our people are not going to live under hate. So that's not going to happen. So we are going to prosecute those cases in every way we can at that point.
For the sake of time, we'll take one more question.
Going back to the grand jury investigation of the Target shooting, will
Yes,
the
ma'am.
grand jury be hearing anything regarding allegations of corruption within the Osceola County Sheriff's Office made by the lawyers of the victims and the previous state attorney?
Those are two separate cases. So there's the shooting that needs to be addressed, and then there's the public corruption case that's still ongoing.
Just about bias, are you worried about that at all when it comes to grand jury deliberations, especially when it comes to law enforcement and the bias that some people in the public do have?
Against law enforcement? That's the reason why we're trying to go through this process. Implicit bias in either way is bad. It's bad in our criminal justice system, in our courtrooms. It's bad in our sentencing. It's bad when we talk about law enforcement. It's an evil, just like racism. It's an evil that's permissive regardless of where it is. So that's that's the reason for using the system, for trying to remove the biases, some that may be in myself or the office, and trying to help foster a more objective standard when looking at these cases.
All
Now,
right,
with that
thank
being
you all
said,
for
are you-
coming.
is your,
Thank you all for coming.
Right.
One question.
No, we're good.
No, I can see the different agency. Do you know what happened with Sheriff Marco Lopez?
What do you mean?
I can see the different agency. Do you know what happened with Sheriff Marco Lopez?
His undersheriff is right there.
He's out of town.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, thank you all for coming. On your way out, you will receive a media packet. If there's any other questions, you can feel free to email us at pio@sauni.org. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Clicker real fast? I'm trying to figure out how the muting can
Why did they? I don't know why either.
Like, I have no idea how that could possibly.
It's weird.
It happened like 3-4 times.
Yeah, because they couldn't even hear it on Teams.